Ladies and gentlemen, it is a pleasure, an honor, and a delight to be here in Tallinn, in this super smart city, capital of a super smart country. And one of the things that always amuses me is we can build a 1,000 kmh transport system, but humanity has not yet sorted out a universal video adapter. So, I'm going to talk about Hyperloop One. I'm going to talk about your tunnel. I'm going to talk about a faster, better, cheaper, greener alternative to Rail Baltica. And I'm going to talk about how to create a Baltic/Nordic super region. And I want this room to think 5 years or 10 years down the line. Because what we've got now is a technology. What we can deploy here, right here, at currently the edge of Europe, as the map so brilliantly showed, but what could be the technological center of Europe, is a solution that creates a super region. So, my agenda today is, I want to give you a quick update on our technological progress. We're building Hyperloop and I want to show it to you. I want to make you a strategic proposal, which is a Hyperloop network for a 21st century Europe, starting right here in the Baltics. And I want to extend an invitation to the Estonian government, as we have to your Finnish government counterparts, to work with us to develop the project. So, first question is, what is a Hyperloop? And I think everybody knows that Elon Musk had the original idea for a Hyperloop, which is basically put a small vehicle in a tube, take the air out of the tube, and it goes really fast. So that was the basic Elon Musk idea. He then said, anybody in the world can build a Hyperloop. And so a load of people built PowerPoint presentations. We decided that was boring. We were actually going to build the real Hyperloop. So let me show you, first of all, the principles. So it's not a train. It's a pod. A pod is a small vehicle, a train is a big vehicle. With a train, you have to wait for 1,000 people to show up for it to be economically viable. With a pod, which can have 20, 40, 60, 90 seats, those kind of orders of magnitude, it can operate on demand. That's the difference. And the pod can be sized to take a maritime shipping container. So we can take freight as well as passengers. Second principle is you put the pod in the tube. That creates a totally controlled environment. No snow, or in Saudi Arabia, no sand. No weather, no ice. No pedestrians running about. No dogs trying to cross the road. So what's the point of that? It makes autonomous control much easier than it is on an autonomous car, because you don't have all those variables. So it creates a controlled environment, and it also creates a customs secure environment. So you can have bonded transport in a customs-free zone for anywhere linked with a tube. Second advantage of the tube is you take the air out of it, it enables you to go really, really, really fast. Third principle is we propel the vehicle with a linear electric motor. Great British invention. And so we ping it up to speed, and I'm going to talk about speed in a minute because it's really quite impressive. And then we levitate the pods using passive magnetic levitation, not wheels. So we get rid of aerodynamic drag and we get rid of friction. And I should just mention, on our magnetic levitation maglev system, it's passive maglev. It's the motion of the vehicle itself that creates the lift. We don't need to put electricity into the system to create levitation. So, this little video backs us out of the tube and shows us schematically what it will look like. These are the bits. These are, I stress, this is not what it looked like in real life. These are engineering sketches. Here's the pod levitating, and as you come round the back, you'll see the linear motor is in the track. The vehicle is propelled by the track. And then I advise you to keep your eyes on the screen, because if you blink, you miss this bit. There it goes. And this is one of our modes of construction. We can build elevated. The tube doesn't care. The tube can be elevated, it can be on the ground, it can be under the ground in a tunnel. But where we're above the ground, if the land does this inconvenient stuff, We just alter the length of the legs. And so we keep it straight and we keep it level. So that's the tech. Very brief overview. What's the company? Hyperloop One. I mentioned that a lot of people are building PowerPoint presentations. We're building Hyperloop. And we think this is the first entirely new mode of transportation since the Wright brothers cracked aviation in 1903 at Kitty Hawk, South Carolina. We're combining all the innovations I've mentioned in technology to go really fast. And when I say really fast, I mean really, really fast. This is our cruising speed, 1,080 km/h. And because I'm a Brit and the company is American, we have to do old money as well, so it's nearly 700 miles an hour. And the big one at the top, 300 meters a second. There's a good way to humanize that number. Think of Usain Bolt, the fastest person on the planet. In approximate terms, he runs 100 meters in 10 seconds. In that same 10 seconds, a Hyperloop pod has traveled 3 kilometers. So keep the 3 kilometers in your head. It's really quite important. So we're building the tech, and we're going to demonstrate it. This is a photograph taken, I stress this is a photo, not a Photoshop. It's an actual photo of an actual thing. This is our DevLoop site in the Nevada desert, nearing physical completion, taken a few weeks ago now. And here we are, taken a couple of weeks ago. We've put the final tube on it. That's the end. Yeah? So we've created the only facility on Earth where we can bring together, design, develop, and demonstrate all the systems you need to make a Hyperloop work. And those systems are now in countdown to what we call our Kitty Hawk moment, which is the proof of technology. And what is the technology we're proving? It'll be a pod in a tube, operating in a vacuum, levitating, propelled by a linear motor, under autonomous electronic control. That's Hyperloop. That's Hyperloop One. We're the company that's building this and making it happen. Why are we building it? Is because we believe we can deliver absolute transformation in transport. We believe we can deliver intelligent networking for smart locations, and we're really talking about a smart location here, and transformational economics. So let me look at it schematically. Most people, if you say transport corridor, they'll say, oh, there's A and B. There's a city at each end. So let's assume we've got a big city A and a big city B. And those cities are 300 kilometers apart. That's the kind of distance where you might use a TGV or a Shinkansen wheel-on-rail train. And so let's look at what happens in scale time to the speeds. This is kind of London to Manchester, where I come from. We abolish the distance. It's 18 minutes to do the 300 kilometers. A conventional high-speed train will take 1 hour and 10. A pendolino on a good railway will take 2 hours and 10. And if you are stupid enough to drive between two major American or Northern European cities, your journey time will be incredibly slow, and you'll have to get into the city at the other end. And when you arrive, it will be about 70 km/h on average. Message, don't drive. Why do people drive? Is because it's more attractive, because it's more convenient. So that would be okay if you only had A and B. We would win on speed. But on any transport corridor, the geography is usually much more complex. You have maybe a port that you want to link to an inland distribution center. You'll probably have an airport. Or if you're India, where we have huge interest, and your big cities are overheating, you're going to need to build new cities on a strategic scale, and you're going to need them to be very closely linked. So a Hyperloop One network does this. It links everywhere to everywhere else. Every origin to every destination. And then this is where it gets really interesting. This is where we use transponics, transport electronics, our control system, to do this. Again, keep your eyes on the screen. This is what happens. Every journey from every start point to every end point is non-stop. there is no intermediate station. So you don't need to know what the network looks like, because your journey is from where you want to go, from where you are to where you want to go, when you want to do it. You don't need to know the timetable, because there isn't one. So remember that 3 kilometers that we can do in 10 seconds. So let's say I want to go from A to the commute zone, but you want to go from A all the way to B at the other end. So let's say your pod departs and it accelerates to 1,000 kmh. Then my pod departs, maybe from the same terminal or a different terminal in the metropolitan area. It then blends into the traffic. So we're traveling at the speed of aviation, but by blending the pods together, we're creating the capacity of a train. And then when we get to the commute zone, my pod blends out of traffic, but yours carries straight on. So we're creating the convenience of a metro by linking all the places directly to each other. So you board anywhere, you disembark anywhere, you never need to change. And it's more radical. And this is the kind of thing that we think we could build a real partnership with a smart place like Estonia. It's a single tap on your phone. From here, the autonomous vehicle comes to pick you up, the Uber, whatever it is. It takes you to your nearest Hyperloop terminal. It then becomes your signage. It puts you in the right pod. The doors close. The next time the doors open, you are at your destination. That's what it's all about. It's a single tap, convenient interaction with mobility as a service. So how could we deploy all of those advantages to build a Baltic super region? Can I just leave my phone there? It's clacking. Yeah. And then link it to the heart of Europe, because what I took away from the presentations earlier was, yeah, Europe is getting smaller, but this bit is getting further away. So how do we solve that problem? And I suspect we have the answer. It's Hyperbaltica. And let me talk you through how that might work. So here's the geography. We all know the geography. It's very cold in winter and it's really quite pleasant in summer. Yeah? And there's lots of ships going about, the blue bit in the middle. So let's assume we're not scrapping Rail Baltica, but let's assume we use the Rail Baltica corridor also to build a Hyperloop One network. What would that look like? So you might want to connect into central Tallinn, but leave it pointing north so it will collect into the tunnel at some point in the future. You'd want to connect it into Riga, obviously, and then at the southern end, you have a bit of a problem. Do you want to serve Kaunas or Vilnius or both? And with a Hyperloop-style network, you serve both. It's perfectly easy. And that's just an example. There's many places in all 3 countries that you would perhaps want to serve, and a Hyperloop network makes it possible to serve them all the places that are worth serving. Then, of course, you'd want to extend it to Warsaw, which is kind of the scope of the original Rail Baltica project. And then, once you've done that, it's then down to the voivod, say, of Bialystok. If he wants to be connected, he gets himself a loop. And it's like competition to get onto the network. And smart places get on, other places get bypassed. So starting here is a huge advantage, because if you start central, what will happen is just the rest of Europe will continue to get smaller. You start at the periphery, you solve your problem. Then, of course, the big one, you extend it to Berlin, and it's at this scale that we can begin to do some real strategic thinking about linking in the Poznans, the Łódź, and then ultimately up to Gdansk. That would be kind of a benefit for the Poles, because I know the Poles are very resistant to Rail Baltica because they've already got the links to Germany. Why should they bother facilitating the links up here? So let's assume we have the Berlin to Tallinn section in place. Let's now look at what some of the journey times are. Tallinn to Riga. I believe I saw 1 hour 55 minutes on the earlier maps. Forget it, it's 18 minutes. It doesn't matter where you live anymore. Where you live in Riga and you can work in Tallinn or vice versa. And then you get some really big social benefits too. Let's say you need a new cancer hospital. Those are about 2 billion euros, $2 billion a go. You only need one of them. You don't need 2. You're saving the costs of other infrastructure by creating super connectivity. Tallinn to Vilnius, about 35 minutes. I don't know how long it takes today, but one thing I can guarantee you is if you fly, it'll take you 3 hours. By the time you've got from here to the airport, done the check-in, done the flying, then got back at the other end. Forget it. It's 35 minutes. Then up to Riga, again, 17. To Warsaw. And here's the big one. Tallinn, the Baltics to Berlin in 90 minutes. We were talking 7 hours on the map earlier. If you want to be connected to the heart of Europe and be in the heart of Europe, 90 minutes is the way to do it, not 750. So that's part of your network. Helpfully, we've already published a business case for the Stockholm to Helsinki bit, and we are in intense dialogue with the Finnish government about creating a Baltic Centre of Excellence, Baltic Nordic Centre of Excellence for Hyperloop One in Finland. And we absolutely see the potential, particularly in control systems, smart mobility as a service, to work deeply with the Estonian economy. So that has led us to Helsinki. And here's an early sketch of how Hyperloop infrastructure can share the existing rights of way. We don't have to build a new right of way. We can build over a railway, a canal, over a road to get into the heart of the city. But then, of course, once we've arrived at Helsinki, looking towards the coast, we need to look south. We need to look to the tunnel, which is why this group has come together. We think we can give you more bang for very much less bucks. We can give you a better tunnel for less cost. And let's talk about it. Here's the Stockholm to Helsinki route. Yeah, it's currently on our planning 28 minutes from Stockholm to Helsinki. It's about 12 minutes from Turku into Helsinki. If you build the Helsinki to Tallinn tunnel as a railway, which might be a perfectly acceptable thing to do, you're going to get a 30 to 40 minute journey time depending on the kind of service. I know 30 is the headline number that's used, but if you have a higher capacity, you might slow down. Some of the learnings from Eurotunnel is if you put mixed traffic through, the passenger traffic slows down. What we can guarantee you is if you build it as a Hyperloop tunnel, the journey time will be 6 minutes. So forget the twin cities, it's one city. And you know, of course, what's going to happen is the commute flow that you have at the moment, which is Estonians go to work in Finland and do that once a week commute. It actually doesn't matter anymore. Finns can come and work in Estonia, Estonians can go and work in Finland, and you can go home for lunch. It really doesn't matter. You're not doing a weekly commute on a boat. You're doing, somebody mentioned it earlier, it's like a ride on a metro, my ride on a subway. But this isn't half an hour on a subway. It's 6 minutes. It's a couple of stops. So, I want to talk now about how our technical advantages will give you a better tunnel. So this is purely schematically a two-way Hyperloop One system. 2 tunnels with a Hyperloop One pod in each tunnel. The reason our tunnels are small is because we've pumped the air out of them, which enables us not to have the pressure effect as the train goes through the constrained space. So our tunnels are small and therefore cheap to construct. Let me give you, to the same scale, a typical high-speed rail tunnel. These are the tunnels built to the specifications for High-Speed 2 in the UK. So, as you can see, immediately, because of a simple technological difference, we're massively saving on the cost of the tunnel because we simply got to dig out less dirt to build the tunnel. Or we could do it really sensibly. We could take that principle of a smaller tunnel due to pressure reduction and put a two-way system in a one-way tube. So we only need one tunnel, not 2, and not 3, as was shown on the graphic earlier. Let me discuss this a little. What you're looking at here, this is work by Arup, the engineering consultancy. What you're looking at is a northbound and a southbound Hyperloop running in the left-hand and right-hand upper sections of the tunnel. And the bottom section of the tunnel is at normal atmospheric pressure. So in the event of any difficulty, we can flood the running tubes with air in less than a second. So we have our evacuation and safety tube built in to the overall system. So it's not rocket science here. We're building one tunnel, not three. This is going to be cheaper, guys, and a vastly better cost-to-benefit ratio. Then, of course, you'd want to look at what is the cost to benefit. So let me give you some examples from another Nordic country now, Sweden. The Swedes have decided, this is on an intercity scale, they want to link their three major cities, Göteborg, Malmö and Stockholm. And they want to do it, they said, as a high-speed railway. These are the kilometers, so it's a big system, and these are the journey times. The problem is these journey times are only achievable if you don't stop the train, because a conventional high-speed train is really poor at accelerating and decelerating because it relies on friction, on adhesion on the track. So we've said to the Swedes, kind of forget three cities. Why not just create a Swedish super economy? Our journey times are significantly lower, and we can stop in all of the locations. I call it the string of shoppings, Nyköping, Jönköping, etc., etc. My wife jokes that Jönköping must be shopping centre. Yeah, but Volterra have done world-renowned analysis, economics consultancy have done some analysis for us. Benefits were expected to be 3.5 times to 4 times those of high-speed rail. Largely that's due to value of time savings, but wider economic benefits are enormous because what you do is you create a bigger labour pool and people move to more productive jobs. There are two-way commute flows start to happen. People move out and they live rural and they work urban. But benefits without costs are useless. So let me give you a comparative Nordic example of the cost of Hyperloop One versus high-speed rail. The Swedes think that red system will cost them 36 billion euro. If you look at the UK, where they're also planning a high-speed rail system, and you apply those unit costs, that's the range, which is extremely expensive. Truth is, it won't be as cheap as the Swedes think it is, and it won't be as platinum plated as the Brits want to make it. So it'll be somewhere on a continuum. So if our costs were only the same as high-speed rail, we would already win on benefit cost. But they're not. They're less. So we are confident that over the whole life, somebody mentioned the project finance term of 30 to 40 years, over the whole life of a project finance term, our costs will be no greater than 50% of a comparably sized high-speed rail system. And our benefits will be 3.5 times higher. And one of those things comes back to our fundamental technology. We have vastly lower operating costs, and this is why. Because we can accelerate the vehicle in the tube, and then it's in a vacuum with no drag and no friction. Once it's going at 1,000 kmh, it just cruises for the next 60 kilometers using zero traction power. So our electricity costs are an order of magnitude less than any other ground transport system. Our human resources costs are an order of magnitude less because we're fully automated. So that puts the Swedish bit in place. And then, of course, we then have to go durch Deutschland. Yeah? And I'm sure Germany would have a view as to where it would want to go. But once we've put all that in place, I believe we're creating a vision for the 21st century. I've indicated with the colours that we don't have to build it all at once. I would urge you, start here, otherwise you'll get bypassed. Yeah? This is a strategic network for the Northern European Union. This is not about France, Spain, Italy, Portugal. This is Northern European Union building economic cohesion, building transport connectivity. Ladies and gentlemen, I think this vision is kind of hyper-Hansa. It's going back to those trade links, that interconnectivity between the smart cities of the north that you've done once before. And then, what would it look like? Again, just some early work on our design that Arup, our engineering partners, are doing for us. This is what it could like elevated, getting into a city, above the overbridges. And you use 45 times less land than a 6-lane highway, because you only buy the land where the piers stand. When you get into the cities, stations don't have to be 400 meters long anymore, like railway stations, because the pods are smaller. You can stack them, or you can put the platforms into building clusters. Down on the platforms, we bring the tube right down to tight fit around the pod, so that the airlock is a very small area of air that needs to be pressure equalized each time. We're working for a 45-second stop time in the station. And when you're in the pod, you'll have an experience that is entirely familiar to you. If you've been on a plane or you've been on a train, that's fine. You will accelerate at 0.3 G, which is about the same acceleration rate as if grandmother pressed the accelerator in her Honda Civic. It's nowhere near the acceleration I get in my Tesla. You know? So, I want to bring it round now to where this could be. This is the 15 to 20-year piece. We have the speed to deliver transformation on a European Union scale. Let's say we have Hyperhansa already in place. We're already talking to the government at the other end, the other really smart government out there, which is the Dutch. They want to extend the influence of Schiphol and Rotterdam as a premier gateway towards the Atlantic, and they can connect it there. So, stripping away the geography, back to the concept. We think we can deliver radical innovation on a European Union scale. We are already engaging with DG Move and the European Commissioner, Commissioner Bulc, and it has not escaped my attention that DG Move Director General Henrik Hololai is in fact Estonian, so if anybody wants a quiet word with him, that'd be good. I'm meeting him on June the 9th. We are in dialogue with governments throughout Europe. We will submit a competitive business case for the tunnel. I was delighted to see that you're having a technology study, I believe it was December 2017. If you can give us access to the same resources that you're going to give to the rail people, we will put you a business case together, and we invite the governments at both ends to share in the preparation of that business case. And it is a business case that will put you at the absolute forefront of transport innovation. We'll also invite the 3 Baltic governments to join in a project scoping study, which is what we'd like to do, for Hyperbaltica, focusing initially on the 3 Baltic states section. Ultimately, we're looking at heartland integration. I want to finish now with just the strategic scale of the opportunity here. Sometimes you can only see the present if you go back to the past. So imagine it's 1829. And the fastest way you can move goods in 1829 is by canal or horse. And imagine, as a country or as a business, you've had the opportunity to invest in that. But imagine you don't just get a steam locomotive or the railways on which it runs. What you get is a share in global transformation. And this is the scale of the transformation that followed. In the decades after Stephenson's rocket, the world was covered with railways. Constructed of steel, powered by coal. This is the Industrial Revolution, carrying the food that enabled mass urbanization. That was 1829. It's now 2017. The Hyperloop revolution has begun, and I welcome you on board. Thank you.
Thank you for your inspiring presentation, Alan. And now we have a question. Nii et kellel on küsimusi, palun käsi püsti. Annika annab teile mikrofoni ja siis kõik vaatajad ja tõlgid saavad oma tööd teha.
Actually, I have a question. Thank you for a very good presentation, Alan. I have a question. Is there any, What is the smallest distance that a Hyperloop can go?
Okay. It takes us 15 kilometers to accelerate to 1,000 kmh. Yeah? So if you want a full speed system, the shortest spacing between stations is 30 kilometers. However, in an urban or metropolitan area, you probably wouldn't go that fast. Yeah? So we think the shortest feasible spacing is probably 10 kilometers between stations, which is metro, but then we can also do the insanely fast intercity bit, say Helsinki to Tallinn in 6 minutes, yeah, with the same equipment. So you don't need to buy a metro and a high-speed railway, you just buy one and you get two for the price of one.
Thank you.
Okay. Nii, järgmine küsimus. Käsi püsti. Palun, Arturille seal taga oli käsi püsti.
Thanks for the great presentation. Perfect. I became a great fan of Hyperloop. But the question is that is it possible to transport cargo as well? And how you do that? And as the ports are so small, so how it goes? Yeah, thanks.
Yeah. We can size the system for its use. So a passenger-only system will be sized roughly the same diameter as a regional jet. And it can carry passengers, pallets, and air freight containers. But we can build a bigger version with a bigger diameter that can carry full W12 gauge shipping containers, the big boxes. And the critical thing to note is we can carry them in the same system at the same speed. So the freight traffic does not get in the way of the passenger traffic. So again, that's another buy one, get one free argument. This applies in Australia, where we have a really strong project. They're considering a high-speed railway and a freight railway. We can do both jobs with one infrastructure.
Nii, seal taga oli ka käsi püsti. Sama küsimus. Artur on telepaat. Nii, kas on veel küsimusi? Keegi tahab veel midagi küsida? Palun, Urvel on käsi püsti.
Henrik Hololei has said that he opposes undersea connection between Tallinn and Helsinki. He said that it's not feasible and will probably cost much more than initially expected. What are you going to do about it, or how are you going to convince him?
It will go something like this. Henrik, I'm delighted to meet you. Here's the faster, better, cheaper, greener solution for your tunnel. And we will put the proposition to him, much as we've put it to you this morning, ladies and gentlemen. The other aspect that I think is strategically important for the European Union is Rail Baltica is a project that obviously has synergies with the tunnel. It's geostrategically important for Brussels to get that project done. We're not saying abandon that project. We're saying use the corridor that you're creating for Rail Baltica to also build a Hyperloop. The train can do the heavy stuff, the steel, the coal, and where speed is not critical. But we believe there is an absolute qualitative, political, and economic difference between connecting Berlin to the Baltics with a railway and doing it in 90 minutes with a Hyperloop. Because it then really doesn't matter anymore. You are in the heart of Europe. That problem gets solved. The map that has been shrinking in the west but getting bigger in the east, you rebalance it.
Ma natuke lisan siia seda selgitust sellele küsimusele, et olles ise ka Henrik Hololeiga korduvalt sellel teemal vestelnud, siis kuna minu vaated seda tunnelit pigem pooldavad ja näevad seda samamoodi osana Rail Balticu kogu ühendusest ja ütleme selliseks kaubakoridorist, siis ma võin kindlasti öelda, et Henrik Hololei sõnum pigem on olnud, et kõik sellised projektid peavad olema tervemõistuslikud ehk eestilik skeptitsism mitte kindlasti vastuastumine, nii et ütleme, talle ei maksa kindlasti progressi vastase sellist tiitlit ka kinkida, et ta kindlasti vaatab selle peale kui tulevikuprojektile, aga skeptikat on ta kindlasti väljendanud nagu ka paljud Eestis. Nii, Urve, palun.
Mr. James, I also say thank you for the presentation. It was fantastic, like reading a fantastic story in my childhood. Where is the place in the world when the first project will be in practice, working, that you can enter this Hyperloop and travel to somewhere? Is it in America or in Europe? What do you think? And have you studied the effect on the people health if the speed is so high? Okay. It sounds like cosmos, driving to cosmos.
Okay. Can I take the second part of your question first, which is the effect on the human body? The human body does not feel speed. It feels acceleration. And you know this, of course, because every time you've been on an aircraft, you're traveling at nearly the speed of Hyperloop, but you can walk around, you can drink a cup of coffee, you can do all the normal stuff. It's the acceleration and the deceleration that you feel. Now, we can accelerate at any rate that we like. We can accelerate at insane rates if we like, but we're not going to. We're going to accelerate at 0.3 G maximum. That is, as I said earlier, that's the same acceleration you would experience in a jet at takeoff, or if Granny decides to drive a Honda Civic really aggressively. Yeah. So this is not beyond the human tolerance. That's what gives the reasonably long acceleration section of 15 kilometers. So for instance, if we were to use a higher G rate, our acceleration segments could be significantly shorter. And those are questions that we need to bang out with the regulator. We need to work with the safety authorities here in Europe, because it's most difficult to do it here, to get the regulatory approval. And that is then globally portable. So I see Europe as the place where we do the really hard stuff. The global safety case, the regulatory approval that's accepted in, say, Australia and Canada as well. The first passenger carrying projects are likely to be in jurisdictions that can move fast. And you won't be surprised to know that we're talking to Dubai, Abu Dhabi, Qatar about the ability, about demonstrator projects at least. So let me give you the Dubai example. That is using the short range Hyperloop to connect key sites within Dubai to the existing airport and to the brand new airport that they're also building. Then it's about linking Dubai to Abu Dhabi, which is replacing something like a 2-hour journey on one of the world's most dangerous highways with a 12-minute trip by Hyperloop. And that creates a greater cohesion between those two economic centres. I would not be surprised to see the first passenger systems in operation in the Middle East, but I think the European Union, particularly up here in the smart Nordics, has the opportunity to develop a system and to get it into service rapidly.
Võta mikrofon, palun. Miljonid vaatajad planeet Maal. Meenutame.
Just the time, you say rapidly. Have you you must have some estimations.
We are currently on course to have our first freight systems operating in 2020 and our first passenger systems in 2021.
Okay. Jaa, pane mikrofon ja küsi.
Yeah, thank you, Alan. Very encouraging presentation. Can you please elaborate on that when we can expect the preliminary test information from Nevada desert? As I understood, the last bit of the tube is ready, and it means that we can quite soon we can have the results.
As I mentioned in the presentation, we are currently installing and testing the subsystems, the propulsion, the levitation, the vacuum, etc. We will be doing our Kitty Hawk event, which is, if you like, the big public reveal, sometime later this year, when we elect to do it. And we will be electing to do it on grounds of technological integration and of the dialogue and narrative with the financial markets. Because clearly, the moment we do the big public reveal is a major inflection point in our corporate and technological development. And it's clearly something that we need to position very carefully with the immense investor interest that we have into the project as well. So without being specific, middle of the year, I think, is reasonably, you can be reasonably confident that you will be getting big news from Nevada.
Selge, Liivar võib vaikselt piletid hakata ostma ja kõik teised huvilised ka. Nii, kas on veel küsimusi? Ja, palun.
Thank you. The presenters earlier said that they are going to bring a lot of jobs to this region while building the rail tunnel, but it probably mostly is digging stuff and pouring concrete. And what kind of jobs would you bring here while building the Hyperloop?
We had an inspiring session at the Estonia showroom this morning. I think what this region, and I speak broadly of Estonia and Finland in the same kind of bracket here, what this region can bring to this is world-class expertise in the difficult stuff, which is smart mobility, which is how do I make it a single tap on my phone, which causes an autonomous vehicle to come here to pick me up, to take me to the terminal, so that it's geo-aware, so it knows where I am, it knows when I'm traveling, so it knows whether to charge me a peak fare or an off-peak fare for the ticket. It learns my habits so that the on-demand system becomes responsive to me. It's also about the apps that get built on the platform as well. So let us say your pod arrives back at your local terminal at 18:47 and 3 seconds. We will know that to that degree of precision. We'll know it will take you on average 12 minutes, say, to get back to your apartment. You might want your home automation gear to have set your living room to precisely 22 degrees when you walk in. That's the kind of app extension, the ecosystem on the top of our platform as well. All of that stuff, the smarts, the systems, the mission-critical control stuff, that's all doable here. And that's real jobs, high-value jobs, sustainable jobs.
Nii, kui on veel kellelgi viimast küsimust, siis tõmbame joon alla. Tahab keegi midagi küsida? Ei taha, siis ma tõmbaks lühidalt joon alla, ütleks, et ühe toetusrühma avaürituse jaoks ma ütleks, et ma näen siin väga palju inimesi, kes asja puutuvad nii Soome lahe ühelt kaldalt kui teiselt kaldalt. Mul on hea meel näha siin inimesi, kes selle sarnase tehnoloogia ja kõige muuga ka Eestis igapäevaselt tegelevad. Ja mul on siin hea meel olnud näha praktiliselt kõiki poliitilisi jõude, nii et erinevad huvirühmi, nii et ma loodan, et täpselt sellises üksmeeles sellega edasi tegutsetakse. Ja mis puudutab Alan Jamesi ettekannet, siis ma ütlen, et kahtlemata on see väga huvitav tehnoloogia. Ja ma saan aru, et ka ministeerium ja kõik muu, kes neid, ja nii Eesti kui Soome poolel, kes neid uuringuid teevad, siis kindlasti jagavad seda informatsiooni ja ootavad ära, mis on see Hyperloopi business case'i pakkumine tegelikult ka selle nii-öelda tunneli siis nende versiooniks, eks. Et kahtlemata on huvitav algus ja ütleme kõik need samad ideed, mis alati on Hyper ees, et Hyper Hansa ja Hyper Baltic ja kõik on Hyper. See kõlab igatahes uhkelt, nagu öeldakse Eesti filmiklassikas. Nii et ma tahaks tänada Mr. Jamesi siia tuleku eest, ma tahaks tänada kõiki teid osalemast, kõiki kuulajaid, vaatajaid. Ja kui on hiljem küsimusi või mõtteid, siis me oleme alati olemas avatud ja kui tuleb järgmine üritus, siis täpselt samamoodi paneme selle jälle üles, teeme avaliku ürituse ja võib juhtuda, et võib-olla järgmine kord sõidame Soome, kindlasti mitte Hyperloopi, mitte tunneliga, aga ühel hetkel loodame ka Soome poolega tegelikult seda teemat arutada ja siis võib-olla seda teemat jätkata. Ja 2018 on siis tulemas see konverents, kus juba on konkreetsed näidud ja uuringud ja kus siis saab hakata vaidlema, sest Eesti puhul on täiesti kindel. Kui valitakse mingi trass välja, kui valitakse mingi tehnoloogia välja, enne kõik hästi, siis hakkavad tõenäoliselt jamad peale. Aga see on siuke eestlaslik lõpp, et ei maksa liiga optimistlik olla, eks ju. nii et aitäh kõigile ja kena päeva!